Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live feed. Today, we are talking about intoxicating hemp. I'm just checking to make sure people are getting in. Facebook made some changes, so you can't go live directly in Facebook, but you can share it from your page. And so I'm trying to see if I can just add the live stream in there as a link, but it's not working. So I hope you guys are able to find me where I am. If you're here, drop an herb emoji in the chat. Drop the herb emojis in the chat. That is our theme, the herb, cannabis, the plant. We're talking about hemp today. Welcome, everyone. Okay. And if you are here, let me know where you're coming in from, which state, because we're going to be talking about the states that have legalized or that have banned hemp laws. And so I'd love to talk to you guys about that and see if you guys are in one of those states or not. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look like I can just drop the live feed in there. You have to click and go to the Facebook page to see it. But I'm just going to drop a live now. And make sure hopefully people can find us. Post. Okay. All right, awesome. Well, we are going to, hey, Tanika. All right, so we are going to get started. And I just have a little slide deck that I prepared with some information as I was doing research, because it's hard to just keep this stuff in your head. And sometimes it's helpful. Sorry about that. I don't know if you heard that sound. Sometimes it's helpful to just have some notes, and it's also helpful for the viewer to be able to refer to some notes. All right, so here we go. All right, let's see. Okay, we got Maryland. I don't even think Maryland is on the list of the states that I was looking at that either banned or did not ban intoxicating hemp. Okay, cool. All right, so today we are talking about, let me just make this bigger, make me smaller. Where is that button? All right, the hemp versus cannabis battle. And I know a lot of you guys have been around and kind of know the history of hemp and cannabis, but we're going to go over this because there's been some things going on in the news lately that brought it back to the forefront. And we're starting to see some regulations around hemp. And people are starting to realize that, it doesn't need to be a free for all. There's some, issues going on. It's actually the same plant. And if you're going to treat hemp one way, either treat them the same, whichever direction you're going. If you're regulating it or if you're not, they should just be treated the same because they are the same plant. And you'll see from the presentation what that means. Being the same plant, you can get the same effects. All right, so let's see. Just to introduce you, I am Naomi Granger. I'm your cannabis CPA, and we are going to talk about something that is shaking up the cannabis industry right now. Make sure you drop those herb emojis in the chat, or the sprout emojis if you can find them. And if you're just joining us, let us know where you're coming in from. All right. And let's see. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay. I got to figure out how to share other screens besides just my Google. Okay. So today we're going to dive deep into the intoxicating hemp industry, which is a $28 billion market. Now, I didn't even realize how big the hemp industry was until I started doing this research. Hey, Tish, I see you coming in from Pittsburgh. we didn't talk. I know we had a call today, but I'm not from, but I spent some time in Pittsburgh. I worked for Alcoa for a little stint. So yep, very familiar. But welcome. So I didn't even realize that the hemp industry was $28 billion until I started doing this research. And now it all makes sense after doing the research why it became $28 billion. But a lot of people don't even know that it exists. Somebody like me who's been in the industry for 8 years didn't even realize how big it is. But if you've been following the news, you'll know that there's been some things that's happened in the state of Arkansas. There's been some things that happened in the state of Texas. I know from my history, the southern states, Tennessee, Mississippi, Florida, we've got some things going on, which is causing a lot of havoc in the cannabis industry. So we'll talk about some of those things. All right. Today, we are going to break down these key learning objectives. So first, we're going to talk about what are intoxicating hemp products, because you may have heard of some things, but there's some things that I never even heard of before. And there's things that are newly being invented that we haven't discovered. And that's part of the problem. These things are synthetic. And, we don't have any regulation around it. There's health and safety issues. So we'll talk about what are these products, the legal gray area that's causing chaos. So what's going on that's causing all these issues, and why are these states and governors vetoing laws and passing new laws and creating more regulation around it? We're going to talk about some of the recent court filings that are changing everything. We're going to talk about what it means for business and consumers. Hey, Angie, thanks for tuning in. Oh, we got an international audience now. And what it means for businesses and consumers, consumer safety, those types of things, and where the industry is headed. All right. So before we get started, just a little bit about me. If it's your first time here, if you've never heard of me, I'm a CPA and I've been working in the cannabis space since 2017. And a lot of us like to tease that the cannabis industry is like dog years. So I'm like a granny when it comes to this space, 8 years. I've trained over 700 accountants and professionals and worked with dozens of cannabis clients across the country. And so when I talk about the financial side of the industry, I'm speaking from experience, from 8 years of experience and from real client experience. All right. So let's first get into what are intoxicating hemp products. So let me know in the chat, yes or no. Have you even heard of the term intoxicating hemp? And I haven't seen anybody from the southern states, but let me know in the chat, yes or no. Have you even heard of the term intoxicating hemp? And we're going to go over those products in the next slide. All right. Oh, Florida, you definitely know. I'm sure you've heard of it. Okay, so Tish has heard of it. All right, perfect. Okay, so let's just look at some of these. And with the picture on the screen, you can see, and I didn't even audit this picture, but there's this new thing within Google Slides where you can just say, hey, create a picture that depicts X, Y, and Z, and they'll just create the picture. So this is actually the artificial intelligence. The picture was generated, but sometimes the words in those pictures, they don't make sense. So just ignore that part. But if there's typos in the text, that's not me. That's something else. But yeah, so here are some of the intoxicating hemp products. I've heard of hemp, but not intoxicating hemp. Okay, awesome. And that's surprising. I'm surprised because you're you have a background in the medical field. Well, actually, we wouldn't. This isn't a medical product at this point right now. But yeah, so intoxicating hemp. So what it is, they're hemp products that are derived from hemp, but they're chemically processed to contain cannabinoids that are high enough to get you high. Say that a couple times fast. So what happens is, if you know the history of cannabis, hemp was legalized back in 2018 through the Farm Bill. And then what it means is, as long as it has less than 0.3% THC, it's considered legal hemp. The THC component within cannabis is the component that gets you high. The CBD portion, chemical component of cannabis, is the portion that is the medicine. And so, what was determined back in 2018 is that CBD, the medicine component of cannabis, is legal, and the THC portion of cannabis is illegal. And so, what happened was, okay, now there's this huge loophole. I can go out there and get a bunch of products that were deemed legal because they all have less than 0.3% THC. And then what producers do is they start with legal hemp, and through a chemical process, it's converted into several various forms of THC and other cannabinoids that can cause intoxication. So just imagine I have 0.3% from this plant, 0.3% from this plant, and 0.3% from this plant. And then I've extracted just the THC from each of those three plants and combined it. And now I have 0.9%. And then I do that again. And now I have 18%. And then I do that again. And then eventually you can create something that is even more toxic than what's highly regulated THC. And that's why they call it intoxicating hemp, because you can get high from it and it's not regulated. So we don't have any controls or regulate. You don't know what you're consuming, which goes totally against the reason that we've legalized hemp and we've legalized cannabis in certain states, is for consumer health and safety. But if you are creating a synthetic product from all these different plants and putting it together and not even really knowing at the end of the day, how much you've combined and what the potency level is, you can really hurt people, and people are getting hurt. And that's the reason why states are starting to crack down on it and really looking into this and figuring out, is this something that we should ban? Is this something that we should regulate? Is this something that we shouldn't even touch? All right. So Jean is saying it is chemically converted. I find that, because it's a synthetic. And there's other legalities, there's other political things behind that. There's a lot of Delta 8 down there. Did you say you were in? No, you weren't in Florida. Where are you? Let me know where you're located. But a lot of Delta 8 down here. I've spoken to some hemp vendors and they are unaware of tax code 280E. They are, because tax code 280E doesn't apply to hemp, because hemp is federally legal. And so then that leads into some of the political problems that we have with the industry. So if I'm in a state where hemp is federally legal and my state has not pushed down any regulations around hemp, why would I want cannabis to be legalized in my state to compete against my business when I can get all the business of the people who want the intoxicating components without me being highly taxed, without me being highly regulated, and I can sell these to the 7-Elevens, I can sell these to the corner stores, I could sell these to the Walmarts, I could sell these to the Whole Food stores and the Sprouts and all of the health food stores as medicine. And not have to worry about anything. Let's not legalize it. Let's keep it the way it is, because I'm making a killing off of a more dangerous and more potent product out there. Okay, yep, Jean, you're in Florida. So yeah, there's a lot of CBD down there. There's a lot of Delta 8 down there. It's Florida is still a medical state. Most of our southern states, Tennessee, Texas, they banned it, but then overruled it. We'll get into that. Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, it's just medical states. They don't have adult use cannabis. So you'll see a lot of CBD there. But here are some of the key players in the intoxicating hemp world, but there are so many different compounds that are just being invented every single day. But you'll see Delta 8 THC, which is it's similar to Delta 9. So you'll see Delta 8, Delta 9, but it's naturally present in only trace amounts of hemp. And it's made by converting CBD into this Delta 8 product. And then you have like Delta 10 THC, HHC, THC-O, THC-A, and others. And these are also produced from hemp. derived from CBD, but they can have varying levels of intoxicating effects. And then you have THC-O, or THC-A, which is naturally occurring but converts to THC when heated. So this is just light this on fire, and now you've got something that's going to be intoxicating. And then you have THC-O, which is not naturally occurring, but it's synthetic, and it's potentially dangerous. And we've got people going to the hospital and things like that from this THC-O. So it is something, we want to have a free market, but this is something that's actually really, really dangerous. So intoxicating hemp, as you can see in the screen, they're sold as gummies, edibles, vapes, tinctures, drinks, smokable products. They're widely available in convenience stores, vape shops, and online. And there's a lot of pop-up shops where people are like, "Hey, I sell cannabis," and it's online, order it across the country, across the world. But it's CBD. It's under the umbrella of CBD, so it's not federally regulated, so it's not landlocked. You can ship it, but it turns out that it's these intoxicating hemp products, and they're technically legal under federal law. And but because of the 2018 farm loophole that I mentioned earlier, as long as it has less than 0.3% THC, so as long as the originating plant has 0.3% THC, it's legal. But then that's it. That's where the testing ends. So if I'm a hemp farmer and I grow all my hemp and now I'm selling my hemp to a producer, I've tested and met the standards of 0.3%, and that's the end of testing. I sell it to the producer. The producer takes all of this hemp, and then they are the ones that are creating these intoxicating hemp products. But there's not another test once it gets sold to the convenience store and goes on the shelf that says, "Oh, wait, these don't still meet the standards that were set by the Farm Bill." And so that's where the loophole has been developed and is causing issues in this industry. All right. So Gina's saying exactly their business impact is why the hemp dealers are happy the cannabis was not legalized last year in Florida. Also available in farmers markets. Yeah, they're available everywhere because they're technically medicine because it's CBD, which is the medical portion of the cannabis plant. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the legal chaos that this is causing across the country. And just like cannabis with THC, we are developing a patchwork of state laws that are creating total chaos. So if you're familiar with the cannabis industry, you understand that it's state legal, federally illegal, and that's what causes all these problems, and that's what causes a lot of work for us as accountants to help understand what's going on in these states and what we can do to help these companies. I want to be able to share a entire screen over here to show you guys really quick before I move into the legal chaos. Here we go. Oh, yeah. So this is my first time getting all fancy with StreamYard and showing slides and screens. I'm usually on Zoom, so we've always got to learn something new. There we go. Okay, so just a quick let you guys know if you are interested in being an accountant in the cannabis space and would love to be featured as an expert in the industry, please look into joining NACAT Pros. Here are some of our experts here, and your profile can also be listed here with a link to more information about you. If you are certified, you get a certified badge on your profile, and as well as videos. If you submit a video, we can put a video on there about you. But just to let you know that opportunity is available for anybody who's looking to get started. Now let's go into the into the legal chaos. All right. So the next thing, let's look at the current legal landscape. So it's fully prohibited in 14 states, including Colorado, Delaware, Oregon, and 14 or several other states have completely banned intoxicating hemp. So you can't sell it there. It is regulated in 5 states. So you think about how cannabis is regulated. They have state rules and regulations in a couple of states, and it's regulated similar to alcohol and tobacco. So if you think about how cannabis, that's the goal for cannabis. We think cannabis needs to be descheduled and regulated like alcohol and tobacco because it's not as dangerous as a Schedule 1 through 5 drug, as it's been made out to be in the history of the plant. But there are some states that have created regulations like alcohol and tobacco for hemp products, which is the proper place. I feel like that's the proper place that it should be. I feel like that's the proper place the entire plant should be. And then there are some states that are just totally unregulated, like Ohio and Florida. You can find the plant right there in the gas stations, right there in the convenience stores. Has CBD, Delta 8 over there in the smoke shops as well. Before I really learned about intoxicating hemp, I have picked up a couple of my own fair share of Delta 8 products, but now I have a better understanding of what that is. And leave that alone. But it's right there in the smoke shops. I'm sure you guys have seen it as well. And then there's some recent court cases that happened. Let me know, drop in the chat if you've heard anything, if you've heard what happened. It just happened in June with Arkansas and Texas. Drop a Arkansas if you've heard of that one, drop a Texas if you've heard that in the chat. But in late June, the Arkansas Federal Appeals Court upholds hemp ban. So what happened was the state thought that because it's federally illegal, it's federally legal because the state because hemp is federally legal, the state thought they didn't have any authority to ban the plant in their state. So they were able to do their own research, and they learned that they have the right to enforce the ban on hemp-derived intoxicating cannabinoids. Let's see, the court determined that the federal 2018 Farm Bill does not prevent states from banning or strictly regulating hemp-derived intoxicating products. States may legalize hemp, but are not required to do so and can impose stricter rules than federal law. And so that is the law across the country. All states have the right to legalize and make things illegal at their own whim. I live in Nevada. We know that we have legal gaming. I've lived in Nevada I'm from Nevada. So I've lived here since the 80s, and legal gaming was here since I lived here. Now I know there's legal gaming in other states now, but when I first moved here, we were it. And then I think there were a couple of boats off a couple of states, but that was it. I know it's kind of common in a lot more states now, but that's one thing. Alcohol. I've lived in cities in Georgia that were dry cities. I didn't even know those existed, but cities and states have the right to make things legal and make things illegal, no matter what the federal government does about those things. And that's the same thing with hemp. So I don't know why it took Arkansas. I don't know why they didn't know that before, but they just figured it out that they could make hemp illegal. And what they did was they banned it, and they just did this late June. And then Texas governor vetoes a statewide ban on intoxicating hemp. So if you guys heard of Senate Bill 3, it was passed, which had a ban on all consumable hemp products containing any measurable amount of THC or other intoxicating cannabinoids, including Delta 8 and THC-A. But then on June 23rd, 2025, Governor Abbott vetoed Senate Bill 3, stating that a blanket ban would be too disruptive for an industry and consumers. He instead called for a special legislative session to develop regulations that restrict but not outright ban intoxicating hemp products. So I guess we can be on the lookout to see when that legislative session ever happens. But he just came back, and we all know that there's a huge intoxicating hemp market in the state of Texas. So we kind of can see why he's thinking, oh, we need to look at this again. We don't need an overall ban. But let's just see if he even does this ban to see which things should be limited and which things should not. Okay, so originally SB3 would have criminalized the manufacture and sale and possession of most hemp derived products, affecting thousands of businesses and jobs. The veto means intoxicating hemp products remain legal in Texas for now, but further regulatory action is expected following the special section. So it is scheduled. It's scheduled for July 2025, which is now. So I guess they're going to have it this month. The Texas debate was influenced by the Arkansas court decision, which affirmed states' rights to impose stricter hemp laws. I'm not sure why all these states are just figuring out that they have their own rights to make laws. That's been kind of common knowledge since I was born, I thought. I mean, since I can remember, just because I'm from Nevada and we have a lot of different laws that other states don't have. So that's the situation. Let's see. What are you guys saying? Okay, you guys have heard about both. Okay, so you're keeping up with what's going on. Tisha's heard about both. That's good to hear. Lance has been following the Texas info. PM. I'm not sure what that means. How about Massachusetts? Okay, Brent. Is Massachusetts on the? Where's Massachusetts fall on the list? Let me see. I actually have a document that has the list, and I'll drop the link in here for you guys. Let's take a look together. Okay, let me see. How do I think there's a way to put this in reader mode. Reader? No. I'll have to figure that out. All right, let me just share this. Oh no, what happened? Clicked on something. Okay, let me just share this screen so you guys can see. Okay, wait, it's not working. Before presenting a screen, remove other media stream. Oh, remove that, add this. All right. So I found this when I was doing my research, and I'll drop a link in the chat. And it's dated March 2025, so this is pretty recent. We know some things just happened last month, so we'll have to adjust for that, Texas and Arkansas. But it has the link. So it says states where Delta 8 is banned. So we have Alaska, Colorado. We have all of our states. I don't see Massachusetts on here. We have states with heavy restrictions. So those are the 5: California, Kentucky, South Carolina, Connecticut, and Michigan. In states where Delta 8 is legal with no major restrictions. So Florida, we have already established. Texas, we've already established. Illinois, Georgia, Wisconsin. So here's a little bit of more information about what's going on with intoxicating hemp at the state level, just for you guys' personal consumption. Let's see, what else are you guys saying? No. Okay, Dan Patrick. Yeah, I did hear that Dan Patrick was a little upset about the veto. So yeah, that's Texas for you, you know. All right, so let's get into the next area of this discussion, the business impact, which is the main reason that we got our Texas, we got them vetoing the ban. So this is creating a massive uncertainty in the industry because we're just having these random sweeping regulatory changes, which We've seen this for years in the cannabis industry. A state will go legal, they'll have their regulations drop, and then 2 months later, they've changed the regulations, and our clients have to go in and take everything off the shelf and make sure that it's meeting the new regulations. If the labeling has to have an X on it instead of a Y on it, they got to make those changes, and then have a lot of waste out of that. So that's just kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to dealing with this industry and dealing with a industry that's regulated and still going through the motions of finalizing that regulation. All right. So as I mentioned earlier on, I didn't even know that that cannabis was a $28 billion industry. But what we all know that happened to make this become such a big industry was the 2018 Farm Bill. So as you can see, like around 2020, it was just a $200 million industry. It skyrocketed into the billions once that Farm Bill dropped and people saw a loophole to be able to sell this at the same rates that we're selling cannabis products. Okay. And so this is having sweeping impacts on farmers. This is having impacts on manufacturers. This is having impacts on your retailers, your investors, local communities. Let's get to the next slide. So here's some of the key economic benefits or economic effects, not benefit at all. Yeah, so Lance is asking, I didn't know the Farm Bill legalized THC-A. So it legalized hemp with 0.3% or less of THC. And so if THC-A falls within that threshold, it can be used or it can be created. Now, I'm just the accountant. I'm the CPA, so I don't know the science behind how you create THCA and how you create THC-O and how you create Delta 8 and Delta 9. I don't really know how it's derived, but somehow through that loophole of just legalizing hemp, THCA kind of fell underneath that bucket and is also being sold as hemp products. But great question. When it comes to the science behind it, we'll have to resort to. I have had conversations with scientists behind it, and then, I can only hold so much knowledge in my head. It gets really complicated. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the key economic impacts when it comes to this these changes. And so, let me get to my slide. So the market size and revenue. So the U.S. hemp. So similar. I've had this conversation about the cannabis industry. With the hemp industry, the market it's been valued at nearly $28 billion in sales, but it's not just the sales that are happening within the stores, within the convenience stores, within the dispensaries, within whatever, wherever it's sold. You also have to think about the economic impact. And the economic impact is estimated to be in the $80 billion range. And so if you think about what makes up the economic impact. So if you're selling anything, there's an economy that develops around that. So I'm selling hemp. I have to, I need real estate to grow the product or manufacture the product or produce the product or store the product, warehouse the products. That's the real estate industry. I'm having an impact there. I've got to pay property taxes. I need help. I need people to help me. So I got to pay employees a salary, wages. I also got to pay employee taxes, unemployment taxes. So there's some more economic impact. I have to market this product to get it out there. So I'm paying somebody for marketing. I'm paying for product photos of photography. I'm paying for copy. I'm paying for a website. I'm paying an accountant to keep up with this. I'm paying an attorney to create legal fees. There's just so many different things that come along with just selling a product. And that's what is called the economic impact. So if you're the accountant, you're not actually selling the plant. So you're not part of that 28 billion, but you are a part of that $80 billion economic impact that this plant has on your life, your business, your family, your employees' family. So you can see how that kind of compounds and creates a much bigger impact than what we see leaving just the stores and the dispensary. So for every dollar spent in a hemp derived cannabinoid products, that's an additional 2.8 cent or $2.80 of economic activity that's generated in the state economy. So the states are seeing this. They're seeing this economic, if they're legalizing this, or they're like Texas, they have it completely unregulated. They're seeing that economic impact. And that's a motivation to keep things the way that they are. The 2018 Farm Bill sparked a rapid expansion, and we saw that in the previous slide with the hemp, doubling, or not doubling, but the hemp hitting over a billion, $28 billion in sales from before 2018 to what we're seeing today. Okay. There's also impact on jobs and local economies. So legalization and expansion of hemp cultivation has created thousands of jobs. I saw a stat somewhere that was around 300,000 jobs. I didn't fact check it, but I believe it because that was the same thing that we saw in the early days with the cannabis industry. I mean, you have to have employees to help grow these plants and grow these businesses and run these shops and all those types of things. And it's also bringing jobs into rural areas because a farm is typically in the suburbs, in the areas, where they can spread out and grow the product. So you're bringing jobs to rural areas, and you're also bringing jobs into states that don't have legal marijuana markets, which creates that catch-22, like, oh, we've got new jobs. If we legalize marijuana, it's going to reduce. It's a whole thing. Restrictions, some of the other jobs in local economies is restrictions or bans on intoxicating hemp products threaten these jobs, particularly for small businesses and farmers who rely on cannabinoid sales for revenue. And in states where bans have been enacted, some farmers have reported losses of hundreds of thousands of dollars due to revoked licenses and unsellable crops. So you have this whole crop that's is useless at this point. So those are some of the jobs and local economy impacts. Some of the investment and financial service impacts. Just think about it. Regulatory clarity and legalization, that enhances access to banking and investments. But when you have all this uncertainty in the market, that increases the risk. So that increases the risk of lending, the risk of loss, which means financial services are more expensive. Trying to get business loans, the interest rates are more expensive because it's a higher risk investment, and so that's going to impact the market. Some of the legal uncertainty and restrictive laws that's also deters investment. Like people don't even want to invest at all. Doesn't even matter what the cost of the investment is. So it limits business owners to financial services, which we all know we need financial services and loans and business loans in order to grow and scale our businesses. And it also pushes businesses into the unregulated markets. And I feel like that's like the key thing that regulators, it's almost like they want to ignore the fact that they think that, oh, let's just make it illegal and then it's just going to go away. When it's been around for over 50 years, legal or not, you make it illegal, it doesn't go away. It's still going to be there. People are just not going to pay state taxes and they're not going to pay federal taxes. There's going to be there's going to be health and safety concerns for your people. It's just it's just perpetuating what you don't want to happen, the reason why you legalized in the first place. Innovation and market diversification, that's another impact. So if it's illegal, you're not doing the R&D. Legal hemp markets have spurred innovation in food, fiber, construction materials, and wellness products. You can build houses using hemp and things like that, but you're not going to be able to if they don't put parameters on what's illegal and what is legal. I don't feel like if a hemp product is being grown for textiles, it needs to be tested it doesn't matter how much THC. You're not going to inhale it through the walls. You're not going to lick it off the walls. It's not going to cause any problems if it's being used for textiles. So we've got to also look into what is it being used for before we put all these heavy regulations around it. And then regulatory crackdowns on intoxicating cannabinoids have overshadowed these sectors, diverting attention and resources away from non-intoxicating industries using hemp. And that's kind of what I just mentioned, textile industries. And then another impact is state and federal tax revenues. States with regulated hemp and cannabis markets have seen rising tax revenues from sales, licensing, the cost of regulation, and related economic activity. And then there's been bans or severe restrictions can reduce taxable business activity, shifting sales to the black market and decreasing state revenues. All right, so that's the reality of what's going on here. Let's see what you guys are talking about down there. Okay, I don't see any comments. All right, let's look into consumer safety. That's another issue that's happening with the ban. So the major concerns when it comes to consumer safety is we're having inconsistent labeling. So products often contain 10 times more THC than advertised. As I mentioned, the process of creating these synthetic products, it's not tested. Things can get lost. You can have somebody who doesn't really understand what they're doing. You can have somebody new on the job. You can have somebody who, fell asleep on the job and added a couple more when they woke up. There's things that can happen. And so there's no guarantee that the level of THC that you think that you're getting, or the level of THCA or Delta 8 or Delta 9 is what's on the label is what you're actually getting. Okay, there's dangerous chemicals involved. So sometimes, they're using they're using household products. If you just think about the illicit drug market and buying stuff on the street, that they're cutting with random household chemicals and products to make these. And that's the same thing that's happening in this intoxicating hemp. So these products are largely unregulated with inconsistent labeling and unknown contaminants because, again, there's no testing. Some have been found to contain heavy metals, solvents, and are much higher THC levels than advertised. Reported side effects include anxiety, severe nausea, vomiting, dizziness, hallucinations, confusion, and even loss of consciousness. And there have been cases of hospitalization, especially among children who accidentally consume these products. And as we know, intoxicating hemp is sold in gas stations, and they look like gummy bears. They look like chocolate candies. They look like cookies. They look like, things that kids eat. And so if you buy that and you don't have the proper protocol, like a child can recognize cigarettes, they can recognize alcohol, but they may not be able to know that your THC cookie is not for them. And so there needs to be some regulation around that to help to reduce that. Addiction and mental health. So high potency hemp derived THC can be addictive and has been linked to mental health issues, especially in youth. So those are some of the issues. As we know, no quality control. So there's minimal testing. Youth can get to it at the gas stations in many states, and accidental exposure. Kids are ending up in emergency rooms. Okay. Yeah, right. They use spray on all sorts of chemicals if they get powdered mildew or bugs, if flowering plants. Yeah, so you just never know. It's important that we regulate this industry, but responsible regulation. Don't go, we don't want it all the way like marijuana is regulated. We just kind of want them all treated like alcohol. Okay, so let's just get into what's next and wrap this up. What's next in the hemp industry? nobody has the magic wand. I'm not going to tell you that this is set in stone. This is exactly what's about to happen. But just some ideas at the federal level. Congress is considering refining the hemp to exclude intoxicating substances. So we all know, I mean, maybe we don't all know, but the Farm Bill from 2018 was only a 5-year farm bill. So it was supposed to be rewritten in 2023. Well, we're in 2025 and we have not seen a new farm bill. So that's why I say there's no guarantees that any of this is going to happen, because this farm bill was supposed to be 2 years ago. We're 2 years late on the farm bill with no news about an upcoming new farm bill. September, every year we're like, oh, it's going to happen in September. It's going to happen in September. So I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it. All right. So Congress is considering refining the hemp to exclude intoxicating substances. The Cannabinoid Safety and Regulation Act is out there. So the CSRA, and it would create federal oversight. And then we have the FDA, which is looking to create regulations similar to alcohol and tobacco. The FDA, yeah. I mean, they could do that for both hemp and cannabis, as far as I'm concerned, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. At the state level, more states will likely follow Arkansas's lead. So we'll see which states follow and which states follow Texas lead. Expect low dose products in stores, high dose in dispensaries. So maybe there'll be two different markets. If you want, the higher doses, you need to get it from the dispensaries. And then age restrictions in testing and requirements should be coming. So they should start, doing, they should start restricting it. And another thing, I mean, even though it's kind of, it's a loophole, but then it also benefits if you're working with cannabis operators who are selling THC products, but then they're also selling hemp products. Then there's an opportunity, while this loophole exists, for them to push some of their operating expenses into that legal side of their business, the hemp side of their business, to help reduce some of their 280E taxes. So there, you can, at this time, take advantage of it with your clients. But, Shred, it's we're just in a gray area in this industry, and we've just got to do what we can until our US government catches up with what's going on, commerce that's happening in this country. Okay. Industry consolidation. Smaller players will struggle with compliance cost. Larger companies with large legal teams will dominate. And we should expect mergers and acquisitions, just like we've seen that over in the cannabis industry. All right. So let me know what is, sure. All right. So again, that's what we have for this Monday. I'm not going to guarantee that every Monday, join us live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, Mondays. Set your schedule, put it on your calendar. We're going to go live. We're going to talk about different things. I can't guarantee that it's going to be, as in a slide deck like this. This takes a lot of time and effort to do, but we will be talking about something that's going on in the cannabis industry. If you are interested in working with cannabis clients, you can join the National Association of Cannabis Accounting and Tax Professionals. I'll start dropping these links in the chat, where you can grab them there. And let me just show you what's coming up next in the association that we are working on. So I think I might have to do them one at a time. Let's see. Join here. If you want to talk to me and schedule a call to learn more about landing your first or next cannabis client, let's talk. Link here. And you can just click on the 100K webinar link and it will take you to a screen with a webinar. You can learn more about the industry. Below the webinar is a link to book a call with me. Let me see if I can just show you guys. And I want to show you guys what we're working on. So let me share this screen. So, yep, with that second link that I dropped, you can watch this webinar. Tells you a little bit more about cannabis in the industry, and book your call right here. This big orange button that's bouncing around, and that'll take you to an application to work with me and learn how to land your first client. And what's coming next in the association? We just dropped. So for all of our certified members, they've got access to this 100-page white paper, and it's an investigation on 280E. If you book a call with me, or if you reach out to me, I can get you a copy of this summary document. But we are, and this is kind of our advertisement. So if you get listed over here, this takes, this is going to be our white paper that's out there in the world, showing that we are in line with what's going on with 280E. And if you want an accountant who understands it, this is where you find them. All right. But it's a 4-part series. We are talking about the case against applying Section 280E. We're talking about, could 280E actually be illegal, and the constitutional violations that we are not fighting in court cases that I've been reading in resources. We're talking about how the industry is fighting back, and how a lot of these MSOs are saying, you know what, going forward, 280E just does not apply to me, and I'm not going to file under 280E. They're doing amended returns. They're asking for refunds. And we have a lot of court cases out there as well. The industry is fighting back. We're realizing that this is ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. And this white paper explains exactly why, as well as solutions and implementation. So a roadmap to how to get cannabis tax equity, including hiring an accountant who understands it and is able to make sure that your business is best set up so that you're paying only your fair share of taxes. I got a client that we just reviewed their historical tax return. They overpaid by over $100,000 and have this huge tax bill that they have that they're paying monthly to get caught up. But if they would have done it right, and if they would have reached out to the right accountant that has the right training, they would have saved over $100,000 and could have reduced that bill. So we talk about that in this portion of the white paper. All right. And yeah, this summary just kind of gets into each of the parts and helps you get a high level understanding of what's covered in each of those parts. So if you want to get access to this, feel free to book a call with me, and we can talk about this. I can send this to you and help you understand how to get access to the full 100-page 4-part series. All right. And with that, let me know if there are any questions in the chat. I appreciate you guys being live. Make sure you mark your calendars for the next live. And if there aren't any questions, let me check to see if questions landed in somewhere. I don't see it. No. I should be able to see everything that happened. Okay. Right. All right. Well, if that's it, I am going to, I'm seeing some in okay, cool. I'm seeing some in YouTube. All right. Well, if you're watching from YouTube, please hit a like and subscribe. But if that's it, I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.